Hey guys, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Lo, and welcome to another episode of Try Saying That Out Loud, a podcast where we talk in painful detail about white girl shit.
It's our lives and our truths, unscripted and uncensored.
Sorry, kiddos.
What up, bitches?
What up? As you sip your Starbucks.
Listen.
And can we be more on brand? I'm drinking bone broth.
The answer is no. We cannot be more on brand.
Starbucks.
Bone broth.
Also, I saw myself in a fucking, speaking of, I know you're like doing the no filter thing on Instagram, which I'm like all here for it. I don't remember what I was flipping my camera for, but I was flipping my camera and just like looking at something. Oh, I was checking to see the back of my head and I used my camera. You know? And I was like, whoa, sunspots on my skin. I'm like, what the actual fuck is happening? But it didn't look as bad like in a mirror as it did in the camera. It was fucking wild.
Well, I wonder if the camera is closer to your face, right?
Well, no, but I like got really close to
the
mirror to see. Yeah. I mean, I have them, but they're like way, it's like their depth looks like so intense in a camera.
I can't see them at all right now, if that helps.
That's really nice of you to say, because I feel like I see them from a distance.
The no filter thing. Yeah. If anyone doesn't follow me on Instagram, I've like started and tried to continue. If I'm facing the camera on my Instagram stories, not using a filter, which is really fucking hard. And it's embarrassing that it's so hard, right? Like I get on and I'm like, first of all, when you're in this is my friend Sandy said this, when you're in real life, like no one sees you with a filter. So like you should be able to like.
Right. It's like your shit.
Right. It's your own personal shit. And I saw a quote today that sort of reminded me of that. That was like, you know how you think about like a former body of yours? Like I think back to like my wedding body basically. Mm-hmm. And you think, oh, why was I unhappy with my body then or my weight then or whatever? Right. Like that just goes to show that it's never about the weight. It's never about like, because like,
right.
I wasn't happy then either. I was like, oh, like I guess it's fine. And now I'm like, oh my God. So like it's just never been, it's never about that. It's your own personal.
You're never satisfied because it's so personal. And you always, that always can be better in your mind, or like grass is always greener.
Yep.
Totally.
So yeah, I'm trying, to be clear, if I ever post a permanent picture of myself in my feed, shit will be filtered, but like.
Or like at like, change lighting and shit like that. Cause it's hard. You got to find your fucking light.
I know.
Honestly,
I know. It is.
Meanwhile, I have like a big zit on my lip that's painful.
Oh, is it an underground?
It must be. It's like coming to the surface, and I feel
I found out. I read about it because like when I got off birth control, I was getting like the same that you told me, like all the hormonal acne around my chin. Apparently, I mean, I'm sure you know this, but like if you like steam your face, it like opens it up so that it'll like come through.
Yes,
and that it'll like.
That's why facials are amazing. Part of the reason.
I guess that makes sense.
My skin is so much better after my facial, but I'm still like, oh God, okay, got to get back into that.
Did you love it? Was it great?
Oh my God, I almost cried tears of joy. I call it the princess bed. It like feels like you're on a fucking cloud.
Oh, that's lovely.
It felt like I was home again. It was so nice. And I was shockingly, I mean, my esthetician has like, she literally is like full, she wears like a gown, face shield.
Like all of it, right.
She's full PPE
in someone's face.
Yeah, but she also has like an air purifier, separates her appointments by 3 hours. Like she does all these like crazy. So the facial's a little more expensive because she adds in, because she bought all this shit to like make it okay.
Right.
So I felt, I was worried because I was like, oh, it's going to be so weird to take my mask off. But I was like, take me.
Like taking a bra.
Threw my fucking body on the bed. And I was like, I don't care. Just take me. It's fucking worth it at this point. I've done all I can. I'm vaccinated.
I don't think, well, I guess like that's the only service, right? Like when I get my hair done, when I get my nails done, even when I get my lashes done, like I can have my
mask, which is why I've continued going to acupuncture. I like haven't stopped that. It's like, because you feel safe. You're like, anyway. So it was fucking glorious. Oh my God. Amazing. Feeling like a human again, just for like 5 seconds was. And I think I posted this on my story. It was like, felt like such a privileged thing to just be like, I had a facial. And
so where were you when you saw the Derek Chauvin verdict? Were you home?
I was sitting on my couch. So Alex is brother's in law school right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's at Davis.
Okay.
And he was in his criminal law class. I don't know if they're physically in person, but he texted the family thread and was like, jurors have reached a decision in the Chauvin trial. And I was
Were
like,
they all watching it in class?
They were watching it in class, which I was like, what a cool time to be in fucking, not to like, you know,
interesting
it's not fucking cool, but what an interesting time. Yes.
Right.
Exactly. To be in law school, to like hear these professors who have, been in this industry for so long. Anyway,
right.
So I turned on the TV pretty much as soon as he sent me that. And then, I kind of kept it on for however long. It took like an hour for it to like actually come out. And I definitely had like an emotional release. And a lot of people probably would be like, oh, you're just like, crying for your like white girl. Mm-hmm. I literally, I cannot tell you. The only thing I was thinking about was his family and how like I had this release of like, oh my, they don't need to see this anymore. Like they don't need to continue to have this trauma inflicted
He's
on
no
them
longer
anymore.
Serving as like the martyr for the movement.
Yeah. Like maybe they can breathe. And then I was also like, and people that, Black people that are in this country that have basically been so jaded in thinking that cops can't be held accountable because they haven't been.
Right.
Like having this moment of like, okay, maybe they can breathe for a second, knowing that like it is possible. Obviously there's a shit ton of work to do, but it is possible to, and like Black lives do matter, to like use that phrase. Like that, this was like I think a little bit of a turning point in terms of that rhetoric of like, okay, cops can be punished.
Right.
And in some way, shape, or form, like we're proving that these lives do matter and we have so much work left to do, but that's kind of a beautiful thing.
And I mean, I was just, when you hear that a jury is back after 10 hours, like, or whatever it was, I mean, it was so fast.
Right. Because there's procedural shit they go through too, right? Like how much time do they actually have to talk about it? Probably not even
Not
10.
very much. No. Yeah. I mean, and not to like dive too much into the case, but like I was kind of reading and following as it was going on, like his defense attorney was horrific. So like, not that I think it matters, but like he'll have lots of arguments on appeal because his defense attorney was so terrible.
Oh, really? I didn't even think about that. I just thought I didn't hold out a lot of hope that, I don't know what I felt. I don't know which way I thought it was going to go, but I know I was nervous about it not going the right way. Because in my head, I was like, this defense is just like, there's a fucking video. Like the world saw.
We're all watching a murderer try to not get convicted for murder. Like that's
right. And like, so in what worlds, like regardless, like jury, like you saw someone murder someone.
Right.
And you heard other police officers, which by the way, I think the litigators, like that was the best thing they could ever do, is like bring on other police officers. That was like
the commanding officer, like the chief or whatever. Right. Yeah. He was like, no, this was not okay.
Like that is not normal. Like don't let anyone tell you that's normal. So that was like a really, that was an incredibly powerful thing. Yeah. So I guess I wasn't paying so much attention to the defense because I was just like, well, they've got a shit.
Right.
They've got a hill to fucking climb. Fingers crossed.
I mean, their expert, when they were talking about like, their autopsy expert, basically, they were saying it's possible that he could have inhaled carbon monoxide from the police car that was still on.
No, but then couldn't they not prove that the car was on?
Yes, correct.
Come on. Like, that's what you got? Like,
yeah,
oh my
right.
God.
Like, well, I mean, it's like literally grasping for straw. I mean, there was nothing. There was just nothing.
Right. So that's why I hesitated. I mean, yeah, like he was a shitty attorney, but like what attorney could have done better? Like, I don't.
Right. Which is like sort of, I mean, I guess like he, it was his life. He was going to go to trial on the chance that he got off. But like, I just felt like at that point, you just like take the plea and move on with your life. Like you fucking killed somebody. Like,
right.
I just don't get that. And then of course, an hour before the verdict is announced, the 16-year-old in Columbus, Micaiah, was killed by police, 4 shots to the chest, which you and I have talked about this, and I've actually talked about this with Ben a lot too. It's a hard case, right? Like you have the fact that she called 911 for help. Mm-hmm. Like she's the one who called 911. You have the fact that this officer was coming into you know that he knows he was coming into a Black neighborhood and what his preconceived notions about the situation were. And you see how fast he rolled up and just shot with no questions, shot to kill, not to injure, not shooting up in the air to distract. Like if he would have shot up in the air, it would have distracted her, like at the very minimum. So
Yeah.
there's, you know, she's wielding a knife at somebody. So there's, you know,
Right.
a lot of people are like, what do you do here? Some people are like, was he protecting the other girl? And that's his job to protect this other Black life, is like the argument people are making. And to some extent that's true. But my argument has been, in what scenario does a cop roll up to a white neighborhood where this is happening and anyone dies?
Right. No, you're totally true. You're totally right. Like, I mean, we talked about, I was like, what about the fucking couple in Florida who brought out their like machine guns when they were Black Lives Matter protests? Like at their, you know, like, was it Florida? So whatever.
Yeah.
Wherever they were. And I was like, they were on their front yard with fucking machine guns. And sure, like Florida. They weren't, I don't know. I mean, yes, it's a really hard case because if you watch the video, you do see that the cop said, hey, you know, a little bit tried to get their attention. And there was a man too that no one's talking about.
Right.
In the mix.
Kicking
kicking. And so no one stopped, right? Like it was a scuffle that the cop did try, like you hear him say.
Yeah.
My problem has always been, so at first I was like, oh, did he shoot from far away? Like, is that how he tried to defuse? But if you look at the video, like he could have tased her. He could have done something else. I just think we have a problem when our first de-escalation tactic is whether or not you shout, right? Okay, yes, you say something, escalation tactic number 1. But why does it have to be a firearm?
Right.
Like also a rubber bullet? Like why aren't we using these other techniques? And
right. Why is it at first a literal killing technique?
Well, and why 4 shots? Like and in certain regards, I'm like, yes, like she was 16. She should not, like she called the cops. Like the police department needs to be better about making sure these cops have context, right?
Right.
And I guess who are they to know who's who in the situation? Right. And she should not have brought a knife. Like, but
right, no one's going to argue that.
What did the other girl? The girls also had a knife too, right? Something the other women who were older than her.
I just saw her with her dog. That's all I saw.
Yeah. So, you know, there's an argument for like, okay, yeah, that wasn't wise, but also, okay, she's 16. Like brains aren't developed, and like decision making.
Kyle Rittenhouse was walking around with his gun strapped to him. Like,
right. And let just walk around. I mean, she did lunge at that girl against the car. Let's be fair.
Sure.
Like she was like, there was like a little bit more. I mean, yeah, it's just, I think to your point, that would never happen in a white neighborhood. And why it's just another example of me.
The de-escalation is
why are we using these why are these techniques that you have a strap, you have a baton, you have all sorts of shit that you can use in a way that's, you know, she did have a weapon. So like use a baton or I don't know, do something, but there's a way for you to diffuse that. And
you should have enough training to be able to figure out what the situation, like what to do in that situation instead of just like shooting to kill 4 times in the chest. Like
totally. And I'm sorry, cop, but like you probably have a bulletproof vest on and a stab-proof something. Like why are you like, you should not be the one afraid in this situation. So if you're trying to argue that you're afraid, like I just don't fucking buy it. Cause like, no.
Well, how many times have people that aren't trained, like teachers or counselors or coaches or whatever, broken up a fight with a weapon? Like, I'm sure there are countless, you know, like adult supervising type people that have broken up fights with a knife.
Or something that could be used as a weapon.
Right. Whatever it is.
Right.
Like, I'm sure that's happened so many times. So, like, why can't a cop fucking do it?
I don't know. I just have no answers. I just think it's like, A, so tragic. B, it's like, no one's trying to say that I also don't want it to become this thing where like every Black person that gets killed is like, or like, you know, reprimanded by the police. It becomes this like thing where it's like, we're not actually looking at the actions because Makai, she did have a knife. She did lunge at that person. No one stopped. Like there were things that were scary happening in that moment that should have been, you know, handled, but not in that fucking way. And there's no world where that makes sense.
Well, and I think he was talking about this. I was listening to Higher Learning, which is like now my absolute new favorite podcast. I'm obsessed. And I always think that Van makes the greatest points. Like, he really just like has no time for the bullshit, and like just like is just like saying exactly how it is, what he thinks, just like no tiptoeing around anything. And I don't want to misquote him. I think he was talking about Micaiah when he was talking about this and was saying like, I think he said something like basically like, I'm just fucking tired of Black people being killed, like whether or not like this situation was right. He could have been talking about another one that had been killed. I cannot remember. But basically like, I'm sick and tired of Black people being killed and I don't trust the police. So like whether or not this particular case is like the one to hang the hat on, like I'm just so fucking tired that like I'm not going to like, you know, say, well, she had a knife, because I'm just so tired. And I get that, right? Like
Totally.
So like at the point where they're like, oh yeah, this is a quote unquote like bad case for the movement, they're just like, I just don't care anymore. Whether like we're all just dying all the fucking time.
Right. In situations where like, I mean, the only way to talk about it is in relation to like a white scenario, right? Like they're being killed in situations where a white person probably wouldn't be killed.
Absolutely.
And
That's absolutely right.
It's just, so yeah. And the thought of like Kyle Rittenhouse walking around with a gun and like,
Dylan Roof leaving the Charleston.
Let me take you
church.
to Burger King. Okay.
Fuck off.
Whoa. Okay.
Right.
So yeah, it's really, really tragic. And I just, we desperately need police reform in this country in such a desperate way. And I want like white people to also realize that like, just because the focus of these types of situations are on Black people, like it still happens to a white person too. Like white people die at the hands of police, maybe they don't die, they get injured at the hands of police, quite a high rate. So like everything that the Black Lives Matter movement would ask for with regards to police reform is going to benefit white people. It's going to benefit white people too. And I think that that's so important to remember. I think that like white people that are super sensitive to the racial conversations, like get that way because they feel like something's going to be taken away from them, which is just such a fucked up way to think. But why does it hurt you? Like if we have our police officers have better de-escalation measures, why does it hurt you if we're focusing on mental health and like sending people to like, there are also mentally unhealthy white people who like probably, you know, like it's all going to benefit. It's going to benefit Black people way more, I hope. Because they're dying and that the cost of life is not something that we should ever be considering when it comes to police intervention. But I don't know. So anyways, I just urge white people who are dealing with resistant family members or, you know, to like remind people that what about any of these policies is bad for you? You know,
and I had not that specific conversation with my dad, but like he was talking to me about it and, you know, kind of just talking about like she had a knife and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I just said to him, like, you know, she was 16. He could have found a way to take this knife from her without killing her, period.
Like why not a taser? Why not a rubber? Like,
and when I said that to him, he was like, and then I said, you know, obviously like the people that are going and shooting up the grocery stores and whatever, like they're walking out in handcuffs. And I was like, they could figure out how to do it. And my dad was like, oh yeah, that's like, I can't argue that point. And I was like, yeah, right. Like if I can like convince my dad of that being accurate, you know what I mean? Like,
right. Like someone with a machine gun walked out alive in handcuffs.
Correct. Right.
Cool.
It's not, you can get a 16-year-old with a knife. So sort of on that note, we saw, and I don't even remember his name, which is fine.
Thank God. Let's not say his name.
Right. One of Breonna Taylor's murderers was going to get a book, may still be getting a book, to tell his side of the story, which is fucking unbelievable. Like there is no side, right? Like you killed her. There's no side, and she has no story to tell because you killed her. So you don't get, you know, a shot at telling quote unquote your side of the story. So there's this tiny publishing company, Post Hill Press, that is set to publish this book. And apparently I like learned about this when I was trying to figure out what was happening. These small publishing companies work with some of the big five, Simon and Schuster being one of them, to distribute their books.
Right.
But Simon and Schuster doesn't actually publish them.
It's an imprint, right? That's the definition
of
it.
So it's not an imprint. I thought that also.
Oh, okay.
So imprints are just like, it's not just like distribution. It's like imprint is Simon and Schuster.
It's like a small, it's like a,
yeah. So like Simon Books is apparently one of Simon and Schuster's imprints. Like that is like, they are one and the same.
Yeah.
It's just like to differentiate like audiences and types of books and stuff like that. Whereas with Post Hill Press, it is a entirely separate company, but they hire or contract with Random House or Simon and Schuster to get the books out there because they don't have the same network, essentially.
Right.
So when Simon and Schuster was like, we didn't know about this until it came out, I was like, you're full of shit. And then I realized they actually might not have because like, if, you know, they have all these deals with all of these publishing houses. That
is it deals? Is it book specific though?
Right. Like that's what I think it's not. I think it's like,
it's like in a blanket. So Post Hill Press can do anything they want and release anything they want. And Simon and Schuster takes on that. That's wild to me. That they're like, yeah, let's sign a contract. Right. Like they have a brand to uphold too.
So Simon and Schuster has pulled out from distributing this book. So obviously they have the option to do that.
Oh, so Post Hill Press uses, sorry if this is loud. Post Hill Press uses multiple distributors for a single book.
No, my assumption was that they only use Simon and Schuster, and now they're just going to have to distribute it on their own.
And they're still doing it?
And they're still doing it.
What twat waffles.
Yeah. They were basically like, you know, we are here to like give a, like they doubled down. I'm like, we're here to give a voice and like da-da-da-da. And I mean, no, even if they considered getting another distributor, like no, none of the big five are going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. So like,
it's just like the most disrespect. Like, I'm trying to think of like a comparable other situation where it was like, let's give a murderer their chance at like, what?
I literally can't think. Like, it's like, oh, Ted Bundy, you want to write a book? Like,
right. Like the only airtime these types of like investigative journalism, like psychoanalyzing a murderer, interesting book, right?
Right.
I don't need
Ted Bundy's point of view, like directly from him.
It's fucking wild.
Yeah, no.
And okay, here's the thing. Another situation, it would be different if it wasn't this. Like I would almost read a book, and maybe I'll take this back after I say it out loud and it sounds weird. I would almost read a book that was like repentance. Like, I did this and here's what I think is wrong with the police department. And like, here's how our training was, a deep dive into like how the training went and like, all, like I'd almost read like that, but like, no, your side of the story, I literally could care less.
Right.
Like the story's told in my mind. And also like he would just
clearly never like.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, they shot 32 bullets into the side of her apartment and like didn't think twice about it. So like,
right. I'm just like, I can't. So I was just trying to think of a redeeming cop story that I would listen to. You know what I mean? Where it was
right.
Like,
well, like, I mean, to me also, like, that could be done in an interview. You don't need a book for that.
100. Yeah.
Like,
totally.
He does not need a permanent place on any bookshelf.
Not at all. No. Fuck that.
So that was like going around the Bookstagram community. And apparently a sort of associated with that kind of picked up steam again was the Inger that I think it's Simon and Schuster also is publishing Pence's book. And do I want like Pence's book out there? Like, not really. Like, I'm not going to read it. Like, I'm not pro Pence. Like, I'm not pro Pence making money on, like, none of that. But like, he was the former vice president of the United States. Someone is going to publish it. Someone will publish Trump's book when he decides to have a ghostwriter write it for him. Mm-hmm. So like, it's just going to happen. Like, they were such high political figures. It's not the same thing to me.
It's not the fucking same thing. I am of the same mind. I don't give any fucks about what he has to say. I think he's problematic, but you cannot compare the two levels of problematic. There's zero. Like, how is that the same? And so people, like, I started to get a little bothered by this on social media when I saw both of them getting lumped together, because in my head, all I could think about was, okay, so say, I think generally the media in the US is pretty liberal, like
Right.
pretty progressive.
And is getting more and more so, obviously.
Right. And like obviously, okay, so imagine if that was flipped and
Right.
and these liberal progressive politics were not as favored, and we had a president in office that then left, or a vice president and then left, and then it's basically like censorship, right? Like
Right.
they're trying to like these people are trying to be like, I don't like his opinion, so I don't want to hear it. So it's two issues for me. It's one, it's like you can't just curate the world to be exactly what you want it to be. Like you have social media for that, leave it to that. Like you don't need like there. Two, you're infringing on your own rights in the end. Like it sets precedent for someone to be able to censor you,
right,
and censor like
you want to make sure that freedom of speech like stays intact. And like obviously someone can make that argument for this cop, but like I just don't, in the terms of the cop, it's not about freedom of speech. It's just like it's just like he like literally doesn't need the platform. The thing with Pence is people think that whatever he says is bothersome, not that like he committed a crime.
Right, like this is a criminal. Right. That's the difference. It's like I don't at a certain point, like a criminal talking about the crime he committed and trying to tell his side of the story, save that for a fucking courtroom. Don't care. Don't need a book. Like use it to defend yourself. I don't need to fucking know about it. So like it's so different to me. And I don't want to say that like criminals don't deserve their freedom of speech, but like in some ways when they're speaking about the crimes they committed, I believe that they just kind of no. Okay, say what you got to say, but you don't need to write a book about it. And it's problematic in such a different way. It's like, yes, Pence is creepy as fuck. And just like, I don't care for him at all. He gives me the heebie-jeebies. I don't like his politics. I think he's like incredibly problematic for women's reproductive rights and all of that shit. But like, am I going to try to stop him from writing a book? What is that? What good does that do me?
Right. The book is going to be written. I mean, I can't go back as far as you can. When was the last president or vice president that didn't write a book? Like Joe Biden has written books. Barack Obama has written books. Bush, I'm sure Cheney has written books. Right. It just doesn't matter. Like the book is going to be written, whether or not Simon Schuster publishes it or someone else publishes it.
And here's the thing too. It's like, the people that are going to buy Pence's book are going to be fans of Pence. And the people that are going to buy that book, this is something I think that Van Lathan actually would say. I'm not going to change their minds.
Right. If you're a person that's buying Pence's book.
Yeah. They're already in pretty deep. Not going to change your mind. So why? Like what? Okay. Just let it fucking happen. Right. I just think it's beginning to set this like dangerous precedent of like, we can't have, you don't want censorship for yourself. So
why you better not start it.
Right. Just because you don't like someone's opinion on something. Yeah, it's not. Or like their politics. It's just like such a dangerous line.
I get it. Like I get it. It's like an unappetizing thing to think about. Right. Like you don't thinking about putting Trump's book on a bookshelf makes me want to die.
But well, that too. Let's talk about it. Like Trump most definitely raped people. Right.
Right.
Like he is a rapist. So to me, I'm like, I have more of a problem with a publisher backing Trump and releasing that.
Actually. And also like the insurrection.
Right. So. Pence, like, okay, he's creepy and has weird, but he's not nearly as offensive. Like, nothing I feel like he has done, and maybe I'm incorrect, but has crossed the line of like, this is dangerous, like
other than like
legally.
Basically just like being Trump's lackey essentially.
Right. So like that's I even feel different about Trump's book, but at the same time it's like I understand like
it's going to be written. He was the president of the United States. Like it just
it was a real I was alarmed at him becoming president. So like I guess to me you become a president and then you write a book about it, and that's just kind of a package deal.
Just gonna
so I've already like dealt with my alarm, but I would that would be an art like Trump. I could argue more than I could have Pence's.
Right, I agree.
So like, why is it like being lumped in like?
Spot to like switch gears so I like don't depress myself. Can you tell me what I can do about my period symptoms?
Oh, Lo, you want to know?
I do want to know.
I absolutely can tell you what to do with your period symptoms. And I'm honestly, I can share some additional resources of people. I think I've mentioned Dr. Jolene Brighton like 60 billion times on this podcast. So she's a great resource, especially for women's health. Nicole Jardim is also, she's trained more like I will ultimately be trained. So there's a lot of like, but she has created a name for herself as like the period girl. So she actually wrote a book, pretty good book. I like Dr. Jolene Brighton's probably a little more, but Nicole Jardim has some really great resources as well, like blog posts and things like that. So turn to those. But here's what I know. So when people say period symptoms, that can mean a host of things.
Lots of things.
And again, I should be doing this caveat way sooner. I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. This is purely just my education and what I know. So if you have really severe symptoms of anything, always talk to your practitioners, whether or not they're holistic, natural, or just standard run-of-the-mill Western medicine. Always talk to your doctor about what's going on. So when people talk about symptoms, it can range from, headaches. Obviously, cramps are really obvious. Heavy periods, like really flowy, clotty can be kind of a symptom. And some emotional symptoms as well. People can feel like, which I'll talk about later, but like down, sad, depressed, really irritable. Like I can become a big bitch.
Same.
Anyway, so I'm going to start with the obvious, like cramps, pain, because I feel like that's what I feel like people are worried about the most, because it can be really debilitating.
It is. It's so debilitating.
If it is getting in the way of your life really, really badly, and you feel like you're really getting depressed. So there's PMS, and then there's PMDD, which is like a diagnosable kind of like disorder. PMDD is like severe, like you're out for days. Like it can be serious. So if you have that, if you have that, again, talk to your doctor. What I do know is that cramps, and this, I learned this recently, and it actually kind of was like light bulb in my head. So cramps happen because our uterus is trying to shed blood, right? Like we're trying to get rid of. So when we're cramping, it's because there's stagnancy in our blood, and we need movement in order to let the energy and the blood flow out of us.
So it's like doing this kind of.
Yeah, so it's like contracted. It's got like nowhere to go, and so as your blood builds up, and there's nowhere to. I mean, it's an inflammatory response, right? Like you should be shedding stuff and you're not. So a lot of the times, and I'll say this, but movement really helps. It's all about kind of circulation and movement, muscle relaxation too, obviously. But I just thought that was kind of interesting when I started to think about my period cramps in terms of like, okay, something's stuck and it needs to be released. Like I got to move, and it really helped me. So I would say the main nutrient that you want to focus on when you're having any sort of PMS symptoms, but especially cramps, is magnesium. Magnesium found in leafy greens, black beans, pumpkin seeds actually have a lot of magnesium in them. Dark chocolate has a lot of magnesium. So it's kind of funny because sometimes you have chocolate cravings when you're on your period, and I wonder why. But so most people in the United States are deficient because we're not eating enough leafy green.
So if I'm taking a magnesium supplement,
you're probably fine. Yeah, okay. That's good. That's good that you're doing that. I supplement as well. Magnesium is a fat soluble vitamin. So if you take too much magnesium, you'll know, because you'll get like GI. Like I one time took too much and I had like diarrhea like a couple hours later and didn't feel great
you'll know
for a second, but you'll know. But most people are deficient because not only because we're not eating enough like leafy green vegetables and like nuts and grains and seeds, but also largely because I'm convinced pretty much everyone has some sort of compromised gut in terms of nutrient absorption. So a lot of people like acid reflux and things like that, which basically means you don't have enough stomach acid. And stomach acid actually helps you break down and absorb minerals. So things like that are necessary. So I'm just convinced for a host of reasons that most people could probably use magnesium supplementation. Like it doesn't upset me. I'm not supposed to like recommend supplements yet, but the recommended daily allowance for women for magnesium is about 300 milligrams. 3 to 320, and men is like 4 to 420 milligrams. So men require more. Again, I mentioned they're in leafy greens. Spinach is especially high. Pumpkin seeds for an ounce, which like if you think about like putting something in the palm of your hand, has 168 milligrams of magnesium.
That's a lot.
It's a lot for a seed. Yeah, it kind of packs a punch. So if you like add that to a salad, like a spinach salad, like you can be pretty done. But if you have to supplement, and I feel like I've told you this before, magnesium glycinate is super bioavailable for the body and super light.
That's what I take.
Again, you'll know if you're like taking too much and then you just stop taking. It's not going to like damage you, but just don't take that much. Right. Sometimes I take about 300 milligrams a night. If I have literally like a salad for every meal and I'm like, okay, there's no way I didn't get all this, I'll take 2 and I'll just like lower it, to like adjust for what I know I'm eating. Another thing that is kind of interesting, chamomile and ginger in teas, especially because that's the easiest way to eat them. Although I eat ginger chews, like it's my fucking job, but are excellent for the stomach. Also, you can find teas with fennel in them, and fennel apparently can help with really bad, severe abdominal
I feel like
cramping.
I kind of associate ginger and fennel together, like in my head. Yeah. So that makes total sense to me.
Yeah, so those can be good little tonics. There have been studies, and I keep mentioning omega-3s, but this is kind of like a 2-part. The focus is on omega-3s, but here's why. So prostaglandins are released in your muscle tissues when there's some sort of inflammatory response. And there are 2 types of prostaglandins, and they're kind of like hormone-like. They're not hormones, but they're hormone-like. So there are 2 types. There are anti-inflammatory and pro-inflammatory prostaglandins. So there have been studies that show women with really severe menstrual cramps have high levels of prostaglandins in their blood, which basically means that they're releasing a lot of, either type of prostaglandin, basically like pro or both of them essentially get released. Where omega-3s and fatty acids come into play is omega-3s and omega-6s are made up of prostaglandins. Okay. So big surprise, omega-3s are made up of the anti-inflammatory prostaglandin and omega-6, which are the kind of worse for you fats. And I shouldn't say worse for you. In balance, they're both great. But omega-6 is like pro-inflammatory, so that kicks up your inflammatory response. So our ancestors ate diets that were probably like 1-to-1 in omega-3 to omega-6. The average American diet today is like 15-to-1. Omega-6 to omega-3.
Which sounds like garbage.
Which if you think about it, so omega-6, having omega-6 fats in your body enable your body to have an inflammatory response. So you need it, right? Like
to some extent though.
Yeah. Right. Like if you need it to repair cells, you need all these, you need your body to react to things.
Right.
But when you have so much of that inflammatory response, omega-3s actually calm the omega-6 down. So they are literally like, so you want them in a balance because you want your body to respond.
Right. You can't have a fucking 15-to-1 ratio.
Well, you want your body to know when to not respond, right? Like stop responding. We're good.
Right.
If the body is in this pro-inflammatory state all the time, it's like it has no idea when to stop and shit just goes haywire.
Yep.
So
that makes sense.
Balancing your omegas and like what you're eating for good fats versus bad is really helpful. So cutting things out, vegetable oils, sunflower oil, safflower, like all those weird oils that got like a ton of attention back in the day for being like low fat are actually like trans fats.
So what are the best oils?
Avocado oil. I maintain that coconut oil is really great. It is a medium chain triglyceride, which means it's easier for the body to access the fat. And so some people worry that like it's too easily absorbed. It's almost like, eating cane sugar, right? It's like,
right. Okay.
The body just uses it.
Olive oil is good, right?
Quickly, right? Olive oil. Yeah, it's great.
Okay, great. That's what I cook with.
Olive oil. I just use coconut oil if it's super high heat. Avocado oil, although I use even more. So those are the oils. Focus on olive oil, avocado oil, and maybe some coconut oil. But good fats, avocado also is a good fat. Fatty fish, salmon, mackerel, sardines, those are really great. And if you get well-sourced meat, that can be good. So the problem with conventionally raised animals, and I feel like I've talked about this 60,000 times, but the problem is that the diets they are fed actually changes the composition of omega-6 and omega-3 in their bodies, which in turn
that makes sense.
I mean, we are what we eat in so many ways.
Literally.
So a conventionally raised cow, I think, is like 21-1 omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids.
So like it's right. So you're not doing yourself any fucking favors.
If your source of meat is only conventionally raised and you are worried about your omega-3 balance, I would cut out that as well.
Right.
But mainly those really bad, I mean, margarine, sick. Don't do it.
Oh, no, you couldn't pay me.
Couldn't pay me. I mean, we're not in the 80s anymore, 70s or whatever the fuck that.
I feel like I remember when I used to go to my grandma's house, like she had like margarine fucking tubs in her, those like.
Not good. Not good.
No.
So ghee is really good. It's basically like, so if you're sensitive to lactose and can't have butter, ghee is a really great substitute because it basically strips. It's like just the milk fat, not the milk proteins.
Can you put I've never used ghee other than in if I make bulletproof coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Can you put like ghee on toast? Is that a thing?
I've done it, yeah, because I can't have butter. So yeah, I'll do like in a moment. I love to do like gluten-free toast with butter and peanut butter.
Oh yeah,
and by butter I mean ghee in my case.
Ghee, right? Okay.
So
yes, I mean you can use it as like a full butter substitute.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
The other important thing about omega-3s and omega-6s is, so even if you're like, oh yeah, I eat a ton of fresh fish and avocado and I cook with the right oils, but like you have one thing in your diet that contains trans fats. Trans fats are literally like they just ruin everything. Like all the good you're doing is negated by the fact that that's a trans fat because of the way it processes in the body. It literally will like destroy all the things.
What are the most common types of trans fats?
I mean, anything packaged, just check for like hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated anything oil is going to mean it's trans fat. So a lot of soybean oils, like those types of things, you'll see that in the label. So just look for that.
Yeah.
Even if a label says 0% trans fat in a serving, it's the FDA.
It could be.
Yes, the FDA allows if it's less than like half of a milligram, some sort of, but it's per serving. So like it can,
when you add it up.
And a serving is, as we know, everyone eats like 4 servings in one, basically. Yep. Americans, the way we are.
Yeah.
So watch that. So you can also supplement with omega-3s. I take an omega-3 supplement because it doesn't hurt. So I take one.
Can you OD on omega-3s in that way?
I don't think so.
So it's worth taking a supplement.
I think it's worth it. I don't know actually if you can OD. I've never read that and I've never been told that. So something to ask a doctor for sure. And then in terms of like physical things you can do. So castor oil and a warm towel or a heating pad, like in the area, like even up above your belly button, like kind of where like your liver like hits underneath like that right rib cage. Just putting a bunch of castor oil on and a heating pad. So castor oil has been known to help improve circulation. So again, this comes down to like the stagnancy. So, and the heat kind of doubles down on that effect.
If my cramps are in my back, do I put it on my back?
You can do that. Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Or you can do just the source of where it's because of your period, because it's probably easier to lay. I would just try doing it at the source because it's probably just the way your muscles are working. And then exercise. So even just walk. I know it's so fucking hard.
It's so terrible.
It's so terrible.
When you told me that, you were like, get up.
I was like, get up and move. I swear. I woke up with really bad cramps like the 3rd day of my most recent cycle. And I literally was like, Laurel, just get the fuck up. And thank God we have a treadmill, #blessed. I was like, just get on the treadmill. And like, I don't care how slow you walk.
Right.
But I swear to you, like cramps went away. Like it was so much better. I mean, I still I was on my period. I felt like I was on my period, but it was 10 times better. I also happen to have a tilted uterus. And so I need all of the movement I can get because if you have a tilted uterus at all, like that just adds to the inability for your body to shed. Yeah.
Yep.
So you've got to move it out. Yoga is also really great, but here's my yogi tip. Avoid anything where your hips are going above your heart. Because that's going to be the opposite. Like you don't want your blood flowing. Like you want it out of your body. So get it out.
Interesting.
So back bends, shoulder stands, like those types of things don't, you know,
yeah, you know
if you
what?
have
You
to
don't
do a
need to
back
worry
bend,
about me doing a shoulder
do camel as a back bend. I'm always so embarrassed because I'm like, my yoga instructor's a man and he definitely knows when I'm like not doing the correct back bend. He's like, dude, you know, whatever. And I'm like doing camel. And he's like, oh, Laurel's on her period. But another thing that's really, really good is feet up the wall can be really nice.
I love
flat,
feet up the wall.
Just feet up the wall and just fucking
It's
chill
so
it
good.
out. It's restorative and nice and just maybe not great for your period, but
you
it's
know,
wonderful.
I love my yin yoga. And when we would do, I can't even remember what pose it was. She would give us the option of like doing it on the fully on the ground or like legs up the wall. And I was like,
legs
every
up the
time.
wall, every time.
It's so good.
Oh my God. So, and if you stand all day, just fucking putting your legs up. Oh my God. The best thing. And then in terms of other symptoms like emotional related or like sleep disruption, again, if you're having like severe emotional and severe sleep disruption, talk to your doctor. It might be more of a PMDD situation, like diagnosable, like you have some issues.
Right.
The biggest thing I can say, and you know, magnesium, all of these above things are going to help because once you're like getting to the crux of like where your pain is, like a lot of your other symptoms can improve, like you'll sleep better or those types of things.
Right.
But I will say our bodies as women, our bodies are unkind to us because it tells us that we want the ice cream and the donut and the delicious fucking sugary
look who you're fucking talking to.
Things. It tells us that we want that. Let me tell you.
And then it's ladies, like JK.
JK, I don't want that at all because sugar is the devil, like for any sort of emotional, brain, neurological, anything, because it sends your hormones on a roller coaster ride of like, it's not having fun. Your body's not having fucking fun. And there are also studies that show that insulin actually increases the production of an enzyme that is partially responsible for estrogen production. So if you have a lot of insulin in your system, which AKA, for those people that don't know, as you consume sugar, your body produces insulin, releases insulin so that it can regulate that and transport it to where it needs to go. But if you have an excess of insulin, then basically downstream, you can have an excess of estrogen. And estrogen dominance is often, people who have terrible cramps and terrible periods, heavy periods, are often estrogen dominant. So
it's actually like it's bad, like it's actively bad.
Yes. So sugar, not only is it, I mean, your brain is telling it you want that. I believe that if you have a sugar craving, just try some dark chocolate. It's probably magnesium need.
Or does fruit work? I feel like every time I have a sugar, I like have raspberries at all times in my house, and it like almost always cures a sugar craving.
Right. No, 100%. I love raspberries. I literally just had some this morning. And also I was just going to say, you should try melting. I know you don't love dark chocolate. Well, you do now, but melt some dark chocolate with some cinnamon and like make yourself a little fondue with some raspberries and some bananas.
What about pineapple? I've been in on pineapple recently.
Oh, I wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do love pineapple. A pineapple juice is like so luxurious. So fucking bad, but so luxurious.
So good.
Anyway, so avoid sugar. That's going to be, I mean, that's my, like, honestly, my people are like, I'm depressed and anxious. I'm like, sugar.
You're like don't have sugar.
Everything you can do to avoid sugar.
Are you ready to start our new Enneagram segment?
I am so excited. I forgot until now. Give me the Enneagram.
We should probably, I know we would do this normally in reading and watching, but like we should start Temptation Island discussion with this because like it'll go together. So did you watched the finale?
I did. I watched it literally this morning, which was really funny.
So by the time this comes out, it will be a week old. So like probably not a spoiler, but spoiler alert, this is about the finale. Did anything surprise you?
I am really surprised. I just hate Tom. I just find him so
I hate
annoying.
Both of them so much.
She annoys me too. I thought she was like going to be a little, I was actually shocked that she like at the end.
I was like, I want to leave with you.
Right. I was really surprised. Not that I thought she'd leave with that other guy, but I definitely thought she would leave.
Right. I didn't think that either.
So that, otherwise, I mean, I was I knew I will go to my grave with this. point of pride because Alex was like, Julian, no, he's gonna like cheat on her. And I was like, no, Julian is an angel from heaven and I love him. And he is gonna be like the best man on this show, and I stand by that.
Yeah.
And there we go. There he is.
I was sobbing on my couch. Sobbing.
Yeah.
Like just
it's the brother thing. It's when he brings up the brother that I also was like, duh.
Like, and they were just like in their conversation before they like both said like obviously they want to leave together was like so cute and like but also like so mature, and like they both acknowledged like we did this and we shouldn't have and we need to do this going forward. It was just like so good.
Well, and that makes it feel like a real fucking relationship, right? Like that's what I didn't feel from Corey and Aaron, because I was just like they're just gonna go back and do their same shit,
which is so. I haven't watched the full reunion yet.
Honestly, the reunion's not that. Did
you watch the whole thing?
I did, yeah. But I still left being like, I'm gonna have to ask Jamie what she read because I feel like maybe what you read was even more telling.
So did Aaron and Corey not? What did they say on the reunion?
So Aaron broke up with Corey like at the reunion, basically. She was like, well, I think Mark Wahlberg was like,
they were together at the reunion and then
they started to have issues. Apparently 4 days prior to that, I guess she'd been begging Corey to like be honest with me, tell me about your experience. I want to understand your connection with that girl. Like I just want you to tell me.
Right.
And I guess 4 days in advance of that, she had heard that like maybe he did hook up with her, that other girl in the island, whatever, the final date. And she was just fucking really pissed that he wouldn't be honest. And anyway, so I guess they were together the 4 days leading up, but it was on the rocks. Like it was like, she was like,
so that's what I read. I read that they were not together because of like that rumor floating around that he says they didn't hook up. She also says that they didn't hook up, but there's another person that she told.
Yes. What was his fucking name?
Shaq.
Shaq. He really, really liked Aaron, and then she like sent him home, whatever. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So she apparently told him that they did hook up. So that's what I read. However, I said that to one of our friends, and I got a text message while we were sitting here of a screenshot. I'm gonna actually open it.
Tell me everything.
Because I had said, "Oh, Aaron and Corey aren't together," and she sent me a message of Corey's Instagram that says, "Looks like they're together." And 18 hours ago. It is like a really nice like post. The show might have ended, but our journey continues, blah, blah, blah. Tonight's actions, whether it be understood or not, were justified. You were right, and I did hide and lie. But I'm sorry, and here's to us continuing our growth and love through thick and thin. I love you. So, like, and there's a picture of them.
Oh.
She looks really good. I mean, like, I can't really tell, but like from this picture, she looks really good. Her hair is a lot lighter, which I'm into.
I don't know how I feel about it. I just like don't. Yeah. There were the couple I just like didn't really care about. I just don't really care about you. I don't really care about Chelsea. Tom freaks me. He creeps me out.
Yeah, I did not care about. And obviously, like Julian and Kristen are still together, and they're getting married in 2022.
So cute.
Yeah, like
I loved that,
and I love that they could obviously push the wedding because they're so fucking young. Like,
you know who I want to be okay, speaking of bachelorettes, I want Erica to become a bachelorette.
Would be so great.
She is like she is literally like
she has such
the strength
of
an ox too. Like she just watches the scenes of him making out with people and like literally like has no, and I'm like,
well, and like she was such a different person when she started.
Yeah.
Such a different, like, and she like, I mean, like the 180 that she did was incredible.
Right. It was amazing.
And Kendal just sitting there like a fucking doof being like, oh, you're serious? Like, oh, you really don't want to
She was like, you can stop asking me. I'm pretty confident in my decision. I was like, yes.
Like he clearly was just trying to gaslight her back into it. And then on the only part of the reunion I watched was the beginning, which was Kendal and Erica. And he looked like he was just going to shit himself the whole time.
Well, and so I was laughing when I was watching this final episode. I was laughing because I was like, you can tell who Mark hates. He is just Kendal. Like, Kendal, get the fuck out of my face. I can't deal with you. And you could
He's
tell.
Just a bad person.
You could tell with Corey and Aaron that he was like, you guys may be back on your bullshit. Like, he just like can tell. And, but then in the reunion, Mark was like, Mark made me feel bad for Kendal.
Because he was like, I know there's some shit in there.
There is some pain. You could see it in his eyes, though. Like, he almost was like, whether...
He was almost crying.
He was almost crying. You're like, oh, fuck, that guy is really got to go to therapy.
Right. I'm not, like, it's not an excuse for his bad behavior, but, like, there's clearly something there. Like,
right.
It was very clear.
And, like, how painful was it for, like, Alexis to be like, yeah, I'll leave with you. And then
her find
look
out, like,
back,
her,
like, watch
later.
that episode and be like, oh my God, he just, because she said no.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
So dicey.
No. So, Erica and Kendal are my first Temptation Island couple to discuss.
Tell me everything.
And I was like really impressed with myself because I was sitting and I was like, we don't know them, right? Like, it's not, you don't see so much of them. It's not like a Bachelorette season where you're just like seeing this one person the whole fucking time.
Right.
So I initially was like, all right, I'm just going to like go with my gut and type it out and kind of see if I think this is right. And I got them right on the first try. And I was extremely excited.
Wait, so how do you know that it's right?
Well, so what I ended up, so I typed them kind of out and I was like, this is why Erica's this and this is why Kendall's this. And then I went and read the description on the Enneagram Institute of those two types in a relationship.
Okay. Yeah. So you didn't like Google what is Erica's Enneagram?
Oh, no.
To know it's right.
No.
Okay.
Right. So I have typed Erica as a 9.
Mm-hmm.
And these are some things about 9s that like resonated with me in relation to her. Active but disengaged. And this is also like kind of pre her coming into her own.
Right.
Active but disengaged, unreflective and inattentive. They don't want to be affected, so they become unresponsive and complacent, walk away from problems and sweep them under the rug, which like in the beginning, that was like her whole affect on like, she was just doing that.
Yeah.
They think of comforting fantasies and begin to tune out reality and become oblivious. In stress, they become anxious and worried at type 6. They respond to conflict by adopting a positive attitude. Their main defense mechanism is dissociation, like a dimming of their awareness of their situations. And I think at the beginning, I didn't kind of go into because I had just seen this episode, but like at the beginning, her level was in the low average. So it was like 5 or 6, which is disengaged, complacent, resigned, appeasing.
Yep. That makes so much sense.
Which was what she was when she got there. Kendal is one of the unhealthiest Enneagram people I've ever had to type. It's like, it was just trying to figure out where he fell because I never have to really type that unhealthy of a person, right? Like, so he is an extremely unhealthy 3. He's incredibly concerned with how he is perceived by the outside world. They lose touch with their own feelings beneath like a external facade. They have problems with intimacy, credibility, and their phoniness level emerges. They want to impress others with their superiority and constantly promote themselves, making themselves sound better than they really are.
Is he like Donald Trump? He kind of is like Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is an 8, and an unhealthy 8 is also really bad. They're narcissistic with inflated notions about themselves. Arrogance and contempt for others is used as a defense against jealousy. Their social style is assertive, so they're ego-oriented. And I think he could honestly be as low as an 8, which unhealthy is 7, 8, and 9.
Oh, wow.
So level 5 is image conscious and expedient. Level 6 is self-promoting and grandiose, which like obviously he's that. 7 is unprincipled and deceptive, which he also was on the show.
He's definitely.
And 8 is duplicative and opportunistic. And like, he was that too. Like, it is bad.
He's like 7, 8 to me. Like, he's low. Like, that's gnarly.
Right. So when I went to kind of read about 3s and 9s, I actually knew a little bit about them because my best friend and her husband, the Tom lookalike, are a 3 and a 9 together. So to see a healthy 3 and 9 relationship is like very interesting to like compare it to an extremely unhealthy one. So it is a pretty common pairing because 9s bring a lot of support and encouragement to the relationship, and it kind of feeds into the 3s like pride and sense of accomplishment. 9s are more likely not to want to talk about whatever is bothering them for fear of further endangering their relationship. So that was kind of like when Erica came in, she was like, yeah, I make him breakfast every morning. And like,
right. She tiptoes around him a little.
Right. So threes don't want to express their complaints because they're afraid of like the relationship just like falling apart essentially. And they need to keep that facade.
Right.
Nines believe it is better not to say anything and let things work out on their own. The relationship will continue for a while as if nothing is wrong, even if it is actually over. Feeling abandoned or rejected makes threes depressed, but they may not realize it because they're out of touch with their emotions. Neither wants to bring up conflicts that they have with the other. And sometimes a major life challenge brings the deterioration of the relationship into awareness. They may break up or get back together, but if the underlying problems aren't fixed, nothing will change. Like, just to a fucking T.
What it doesn't capture for me was how like how Kendal would project onto Erica his like need for perfection. Like he like would project that and expect that of her. But I mean,
but also would never be. Like, obviously, he had no standard of that for himself. He was like, you touch somebody, I'm going to lose my mind, but I'm going to have a threesome to continue on my journey. I need to grow. She was like, when she was like, how did sleeping with two women help you grow on this journey? I was like, yeah, how did it?
Tell us, please. I just would really like to know.
Like, I can't. But
and like how he wanted a throuple. Like he wanted to be in a throuple.
Right. I actually am going to rewatch or watch the rest of the reunion because I stopped when Nicole was coming down, and I would love to hear what she had to say.
I don't know. I felt like that reunion was like it's a little like I just kind of want to know where the couples are, like if they're together, because it wasn't interesting enough. Like it was. I mean, it was fine. It was.
You know what I've been saying to Ben as we get into reading and watching now.
Yes.
So obviously, I'm like as deep into Love Island UK as you can possibly be.
What season?
We're on 5 now.
Oh, these are good. Who's on season 5? Shit.
Lucy.
Okay.
So Joe just went home. We're not like so far into it.
Okay.
Lucy, Joe, Amber, Michael.
Oh, okay. You have
don't spoil.
You have Tommy Fury.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yes. So this was
Molly
a good season.
May.
Yeah, Molly May's so funny.
Maura.
Yep.
The model, Arabella, Danny.
I don't even remember Arabella.
Oh, so that means she doesn't stay. Yawande, Danny and Yawande.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right now we're in a conflict where Yawande is dating Danny, or she's coupled up with Danny, and this fucking literal model comes on and decides she wants Danny.
So funny.
And anyway, so I've been saying, so we finished season 4, and it's so interesting. Like no one ever talks about season 4. Whenever I post about it, everyone's like, oh my God, season 5, season 6.
Yeah.
And I know why season 4 was terrible. Like in terms of like, when the people came on, Ben and I immediately were like, these people fucking suck. Like these people suck. And I have I can't even really pinpoint. When we were watching the beginning of season 5, we were immediately like into the people and like, wanted to know what was going on. And I was like, what was it about season 4 that sucked? We could not figure it out. Like why we immediately didn't like the people and like what the deal was. We could not figure it out.
I forgot about Greg.
But nobody, who's Greg?
Oh, sorry. I won't say anything. It's a guy. Well, I mean, you're going to see it. A guy, one of the guys that
comes in named Greg. Okay. So, and the other thing, season 4 was a gigantic, this is what I was actually getting at. I was like requesting a reunion episode. I was like, we need reunion episodes.
Yeah.
So of course, season 4 starts the reunion episodes. It's like a Christmas special, which was garbage. The whole fucking episode was garbage. So I basically just like looked up. Not a single fucking couple stayed together from season 4.
Right.
Not a single couple.
Right.
Was it Jack? Yeah. Jack and Danny, who won, broke up like 2 months later. And Jack has a kid with somebody else. And she's now dating like her high school sweetheart. And like, I was rooting for them. I was like,
oh, that's her high school sweetheart?
Or maybe her her boyfriend before Jack.
She has a baby too, right?
Right. Not a single fucking couple stayed together. And like a lot of them broke up like between the ending of the show and the reunion even.
Right.
Like I was rooting for Wes and Megan.
You mentioned Lucy, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I was rooting for Wes and Megan.
Okay.
I was rooting. I wasn't rooting for Adam and Zara, but they were still together at the reunion, and I was like, okay.
Can't yet.
Like, fine. But then, everyone has broken up. I was like, you just wasted my time. Season 4 is how I felt.
but not really, because it's still so fucking fun to watch.
Right. So season 5 is much better. We're, like I said, we're just at the point when Joe left. And now this model is trying to like get in. Apparently she does not make much of an impact, but she's really hot. Ben and I watched her walk in and we were like, oh shit. Like,
they have some good looking. Mora is also
season
just
5.
so beautiful, but also her
so
fucking
every
accents.
time so Lucy was like the hottest of like the initial people that came in, obviously. And then
I can't even remember who, but I think you're right.
Molly May came in and we were like, oh, Molly May is hotter than Lucy.
Totally.
And then Mora came in and we were like, oh, Mora's hotter than Molly.
So fucking hot.
Right. And then this model came in and Ben and I were like, are they just like going to keep like doing, I don't understand.
Wait, sorry. Who's the model that you're talking about? Do you remember
Arabella. She's like 5'10". She comes in alone and is like laying on the chair, and Curtis and Amy wake up in the morning and she's just like fucking there. Yeah. I
remember her.
Yeah. So we were like, is she like, are they just going to keep getting hotter? Like, what's happening here?
I think Mora's prettier than her. But I'm into dark hair, not blondes.
So I did think that. I think Mora is prettier than her when she is made up. I actually think that like without makeup on, the model is prettier.
I think honestly everyone's better without makeup. I think Molly May is even cuter without makeup.
Oh, I do too. Well, she's too orange.
I know.
So I've literally only been
this is a good season. This is like this season of people are the people that I
associate with like.
Yeah, that's like besides season 1, because it just like makes me laugh so much, and Hannah. But like
I still hold like a really big spot for season 1.
I know.
It was so good.
It's so funny. But no, this season is I like this vibe.
Not to like put a damper on it, but like, did you know that there are like 3 or 4 suicides from Love Island?
Yes. Including the host.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I found that, so now that I'm watching her, like obviously she's getting replaced at some point, but now that I'm watching her, it's like eerie to me.
I know.
Like knowing that and then it was Sophie from season 2.
Yes, the brunette, Sophie, yep.
And then Mike from season 3.
I didn't watch season 3.
Season 3 was okay.
That guy.
But like it's so sad. Like
it's
clearly
really
these
sad.
people, like they're not being taken care of. Like they're just like there's not that many people for 3 people.
I know.
Committed, you know what I mean?
I know, not that many seasons.
Right. But I'm really into it, and Ben is obviously still very much into it. Like needs to be watching.
Such a good background show. I mean, I kind of miss. I'm very excited. Are they doing it? They're recording this year, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which it should be soon.
Yeah, it should be soon. I know. I'm excited. And like
I've never figured out if we can watch it live yet, have we?
No. I really hope we can, so we can.
But like, how difficult is it going to be from going from being able to binge it?
I said the exact same thing, and so I'm like, part of me is like, I don't actually want to be able to watch it live, because like I want to be able to binge the fuck out of it.
Not in a totally similar vein, but I have an unhealthy relationship with Below Deck Med.
So is that different than regular Below Deck?
Yes, it's like Mediterranean only. So they do like.
I thought you were going to be like medical, and I was like.
No. They do like Greece and Italy and the south of France. And so it's like that general.
What is the premise?
I mean, the premise is it's like 6 weeks of charter season where people where like the owner of these boats, I guess, like allow, other people to rent it out for however many nights. There's a captain, and then there are deck crew and interior like service people.
Okay.
And they're all, a lot of them like are quote unquote yachties. And
what does that mean?
They just like work on yachts for 6 weeks and make a shit ton of money. So they could make upwards of like $1,100 in USD in tips per charter outside of what they're paid to like be there. So they make, you make a lot of money in 6 weeks. Right. And, these people come from everywhere, like you have like Australians and people from the UK, and you have, there was an Italian girl, you have a couple of South Africans.
So it's not like, game show is like the wrong word, but it's not like Love Island.
No, it's like
real
world on a yacht.
Yeah. Okay.
You like, they have to, they bunk together, live together, all have to work together for 6 weeks. And there are working relationships that get weird. Like if your like head stewardess doesn't like the 2 stewardesses under her, and they can butt heads. And then there's like the deck crew. And then of course it's like, a bunch of hormones and fucking crew mess and like
so it's like it's crew and the people, or is it only the crew that like that the show is focused on?
It's, well, define crew. So the captain's involved, like, to an extent. And then there are a couple of people, like engineers, that work on the boat that aren't on the show. So really it's about the young people on the show. But I can't tell you. So Alex and I are addicted. And he left. I think I told you he's in New York now, actually. He comes back tomorrow.
Oh, you did not tell me that.
No, he's been on the East Coast since last Wednesday.
Oh, and how have you been loving that?
It's been wonderful.
Are you living your best fucking life?
I'm getting back into a routine, which is really nice. Like, yeah, it's really nice. Anyway, I miss him. Like, I'm excited for him to come home. But right. Can I tell you, Alex and I went to dinner before he left at this like outdoor place. So like first outdoor meal together. And
what did you freak out or was it good?
No, it was good because it was like a taco bar thing. Where it's like, it was fine. Alex goes, he's like, so what are the rules here? And at first I was like, oh, is he going to just like, he always tries to make jokes about like paying for sex and like whatever.
Right. And you were like.
And I was like, okay. And he was like, so do we separately finish season 4? Because like, what are we, it's not like he's gone for a few days. Like he literally what else are we fucking going to watch? So we had to like decide like to like finish season 4 without each other. But we were like, okay, we'll finish season 4 and then talk about it. And then we can move on to the next one if we have to.
Did you finish season 4?
So obsessed with this young man. I'm going to say it because he's probably 28 now. And when it